So PSA-based prostate cancer screening has really been fraught with controversy since its introduction in the 1980s. And part of this is due to its unclear risk-benefit ratio. So we know that PSA-based screening can lead to a reduction in prostate cancer mortality, but this is in part offset by overdiagnosis of indolent prostate tumors. So this controversy really reached its peak in 2011, 2012, when the US Preventative Services Task Force issued a grade D recommendation against routine PSA-based screening. So in light of this recommendation in 2012, the grade D recommendation, prostate cancer screening and incidence fell. But we also know about prostate cancer that there's very large disparities in cancer incidence and cancer mortality across racial ethnic groups in the US. So the goal of this project was really to see whether these trends in PSA testing and prostate cancer incidence following this 2012 recommendation differed across racial ethnic groups. So we looked at trends in PSA testing from 2012 to 2018 in the Behavioral Risk Factor Surveillance System survey. So first, we saw that there was tremendous variability in PSA testing across racial ethnic groups within the US. In the 2012 survey, about 30% of men overall reported receiving a PSA test in the past year, but this prevalence was higher among non-Hispanic white men, about 32%. For non-Hispanic Black men, it was right around 30%, but then for non-Hispanic Asian or Pacific Islander men, it was actually down around 17%. So there's tremendous variability, but we did see that from 2012 to 2018, PSA testing frequencies declined across all racial ethnic groups. Again, this looks at a wide age range of men ages 40 to 74. When we split this up a little bit, among men ages 55 to 69, we saw again that there was consistent declines in screening frequency across all groups, but the magnitude of these declines were quite similar. However, among the younger population of men ages 40 to 54, we saw that there was a larger decline in PSA testing among non-Hispanic Black men relative to non-Hispanic white men. So this is notable given the higher incidence of prostate cancer among non-Hispanic Black men, particularly at younger ages. We also looked at trends in prostate cancer incidence, both total prostate cancer and stage-specific prostate cancer by race ethnicity in data from the SEER registries. Here we saw that prostate cancer incidence rates for total prostate cancer declined across all racial ethnic groups following 2012. This is really driven by a decrease in localized prostate cancer incidence. However, when we look at sort of trends by race, we can see that for total prostate cancer, the rate ratio comparing non-Hispanic Black to non-Hispanic white men actually grew from about 1.73 to about almost 1.9 from 2011 to 2012. So there's a greater disparity observed following this recommendation. And this has really remained elevated since then. Also quite alarmingly, we saw that incidence of metastatic disease increased by 3 to 6% per year from 2010 onward. This again is quite alarming given that metastatic prostate cancer is generally lethal. So in total, we found that the impact of the US Preventative Services Task Force recommendation in 2012 was heterogeneous across racial ethnic groups. And there's some evidence that it may be perhaps exacerbating existing racial ethnic disparities. So this really suggests that perhaps screening is an area that needs to be targeted to help address these disparities. And I think this work leads to new questions of how can we optimize screening guidelines, perhaps risk stratified for high-risk groups such as non-Hispanic Black men. Can we develop evidence or modalities such that we can inform new guidelines that perhaps result in more aggressive screening regimens for higher risk populations, and for some of the lower risk populations, more relaxed screening guidelines that might lead to less unnecessary screening. Similarly, for existing guidelines, can we create or enhance interventions that might increase adherence to these guidelines?